now joined by Renee Wasylyk, who in 2 consecutive years you were voted top woman in Canada, 100?
Top 100.
Whatever, yeah. Top woman, just go with the top. I didn't get voted top anything, so top 100 women in Canada is quite a feat. How did you get that title?
Well, first you have to be nominated, and then it's an application process once you're nominated, and then they decide. So I was nominated, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to do it. It's such a big process. And in the end, a girlfriend of mine called me up and said, you absolutely have to do it. And so I did.
That's a good friend right there.
Yeah.
You want girls like that in your corner.
Well, and so I thought, wow, top 100, that's awesome. But I didn't realize that I was top 1 of 7 entrepreneurs. So in the category, I've won top 1 of 7 and top 1 of 8. So when Manjeet Minas from Dragon's Den is one of the other entrepreneurs, I'm feeling pretty good about that.
And now, what gives you that street cred? You brag about yourself a little bit.
I don't know if I can brag, but I started a development company 20 years ago. But I didn't just start a development company. I ended up starting about 20 different companies because we vertically integrated over 4 provinces. So we started with development and construction, went into marketing and sales, and then ended up even doing some of our own engineering, and ultimately built quite a culturally significant enterprise. And with that, we started contributing back to our communities. So whether it was through board positions or through activation within each of the communities across Western Canada, we really took a leadership role. And it was largely through that, because you can't win the award just for making a great business.
Right.
It's about your impact, who you are, and what you've created outside of just that business. And so that really was big for me, and to discover that I was like one of 7,000 nominees was also pretty crazy.
Well, and you're in a male-dominated industry as well. So what has that been like for you, especially with the way that the world's kind of been turning, you know, and women are more accepted in these leadership roles? So what has it been like from the beginning 20 years ago to now that you're seeing?
Well, 20 years ago, I found it difficult to get a loan because I was a woman. You know, I was asked if I had a male co-signer that would co-sign with me, to which I said, no, I will go to every financial institution until I find one that will give me a loan. And luckily it was the second financial institution, happened to be a credit union, Valley First, that ended up not asking me for a male co-signer. So I look at where I came from back then to where it is today, and we've come a long way. But even if I go back to where to where society was when I was born, right? It was the very first year of the Equity Credit Act, which was the first year a woman could have her own credit rating outside of a man. So that's in my lifetime, which I think is pretty significant and pretty special. I also was raised by parents who never taught me to look at gender, never taught me to look at race or religion. And so in that, I didn't ever think of myself being a woman. I still remember the first time someone said, oh, but you'll never amount to that because you're a woman. And I went, why? That doesn't even make sense. Women can do anything that men can do. And it hadn't even dawned on me.
Then that's a very important point, especially when we're going to turn here into politics, which is what you're in now. You're doing the Conservative Party now. And a lot of people associate the Conservative Party with that kind of good old boys club kind of feel, but you were raised in a completely different way. How did you end up a conservative?
Well, that's funny. I've been asked that a couple of times, and largely I would say that no one party owns the social agenda, right? It comes down to who those people are. I would also say that what I experienced underneath the conservative leadership was the entrepreneurial excitement, and really government getting out of the way, government making it easier to do business, government making it more effective for me to invest in my business. And I've seen that erode over the last 4 years, and I'm quite desperate watching our government spend money in the way that they are. And I believe that you can apply those conservative fiscal values to really any issue within society.
So politically, where has that led you now?
So I have thrown my name in the hat and am a nominee contestant for the Conservative Party for the Kelowna Lake Country riding. On April 6th, we'll get, all of the Conservative members will get to decide who that nominee becomes, and then that nominee will actually go up against our sitting MP, Stephen Fuhr, and hopefully turn this riding back Conservative.
So what makes you stand out, and why do you think it's important that the Conservative gets a nomination?
Well, I think that fiscally, if we don't get a conservative government, we're in for some really big headwinds economically. Reading the headlines, we've lost our competitive advantage. I just before this met with another company who's contemplating going down south because they just can't seem to make the numbers work the same way as if they were a US company. That grieves me. That's number 9 on my list of companies. And for me, that's just, it's unacceptable. I'm almost desperate to do something different. So I definitely think that the Conservative government tends to get out of the way of business and tends to make things easier. But really what that results in is for all of us to have more money at the end of the day, for us to be able to have better jobs and better paying jobs, to see industry move forward. And that's all industry. So whether it's film, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's farming, really what we need is for government to move out of the way and allow us to move forward.
So was it you being in, having development and trying to push developments through, was that kind of what really set the fire for you, seeing that the way the government was in your way?
I wouldn't say that necessarily. Obviously, I've done business, so I understand how policy affects business, but really it would be through stories. It would be through all levels of government. It's not just through municipal or provincial, but it's also the feds. And we need to get out of the way completely of business and really make sure that we're moving our economy forward in a very positive light. But I would say even locally here, over the last 3.5 years, I want a representative who's here. I want a representative who's integrated into the fabric of our society, who's listening to our stories, who's available and accessible, and someone who really wants to, to project that voice forward. And I don't think that we have that representation now. And I think that in that way, I can do a better job and really be someone who hears, listens, puts the puzzle pieces together, and then advocates in a really loud way in Ottawa.
What I like about you, Renee, is that you don't fit that conservative box. And I feel like that we are constantly putting people into boxes.
What you just described is divisive,
That's
right?
Yes.
When we put people into boxes, we divide. When we put labels onto everything, we divide. And what we want to move forward into is unity, is part of being together as a culture and a society. So I agree with that. I also agree that I wasn't necessarily what you would expect for that conservative picture. And when I met with Andrew Scheer, the leader of the Conservative Party, I told him that, well, I'm not this, but I am this, and I'm not that, and I am this, and this is what I believe, and this is who I am. And he said, that's exactly why I want you to run.
Right.
Because you are something different, because you are a different voice. And the Conservative Party is a big tent party. We have a lot of disparate views, and that's where democracy is the most powerful. When you have those disparate views that get to work together and come up with the best ideas and the best consensus possible.
That's great. Now, how do people support you?
At this point, it's really getting behind me. If you're a Conservative member, obviously, come out and vote on April 6th. And after that, if I'm successful in winning, then it's going to be all systems go for the election and really moving forward on hearing from people, hearing what they care about, what they understand, what they want, and then advocating for that forward.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on our set, and good luck. I mean, you've already have enough under your belt. Just go get them.
Thank you so much.
I got some catching up to do.